passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. I am thrilled to have Peter Dunn here today. Peter is well known as Pete the Planner, and he's an award-winning comedian and an award-winning financial mind. He's the author of 10 books, 6 of which were featured in a nationwide launch at Barnes & Noble stores in January of 2015. He's also the host of the popular radio show, The Pete the Planner Show, on 93 WBIC FM, and is a columnist for the Indy Star. Pete has appeared regularly on CNN Headline News, Fox News, Fox Business, as well as numerous nationally syndicated radio programs. In 2012, Cision named Pete the 4th most influential financial broadcaster in the nation. Hello, Pete, and welcome.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
So from comedy to financial planning, huh? I mean, it seems to make perfect sense for me.
Oh, man. Yeah. So early in my financial planning days, I was just building my business. But on the weekends, I let my creative passions run loose in the world of stand-up and improv comedy. So I lived separate lives until the Pete the Planner brand came around in 2005, 2006. I just slammed the two together, and well, the rest is kind of history.
Well, so tell me, before we dive into the whole financial side of things, tell me about that, doing improv, stand-up. Where were you doing that? How'd that go? I mean, what was that like?
It was fun. It was a nice release. And for anyone that is forward facing in terms of clients, being able to think quickly on your feet and to listen and play well off of others and get reaction and feedback, it was a great skill builder. And I still view it that way as a professional speaker and a media person now. What I learned in those days are invaluable. I don't do comedy anymore, which I guess means I used to be funny is the best way to describe it.
Well, there really is it helps you in so many different aspects. I mean, obviously I've never been a stand-up comedian, but I know the value of being able to speak in front of people, right? And whether it's comedy, whether it's a serious talk, but the whole idea is if you can capture somebody's attention, that is a very, very valuable tool.
Absolutely, Josh. I mean, I think even to my radio show where, and you know this as someone in the podcast and broadcast world, that, you know, you're talking into a microphone and sometimes you're interviewing someone, sometimes you're not. And on the other side is your audience and you don't get to see their feedback. So again, those improv skills have certainly served me well.
Well, and for those who don't know you in the audience, I mean, you used to have a financial planning business that I believe you sold in 2012. Now you focus on financial wellness. And I'm curious to kind of get things kicked off here. Can you touch upon the differences between the two and why you're focusing on the latter?
Yeah. So like many financial advisors, a big part of my practice was not only financial planning, but managing investments. So I managed tens of millions, about $100 million of assets. And I just realized that I liked people or teaching people about the basics of money instead. I mean, you know, $100 million financial practice is, it works. You know, I could have done that. I didn't enjoy it as much as I liked presenting and helping people understand financial concepts. And so that's financial wellness. And that's the weird part, Josh. There is only one piece of personal finance advice, and that is to spend less money than you make. All of us know that advice, but very few of us actually follow that. So financial wellness is a way to use rhetoric and behavior and everything else to get people to do what they know they should do, but they refuse to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's you see it all the time in business. I see it all the time in franchising. I mean, the number one thing that new franchise owners, the number one mistake they make is they're undercapitalized going into the equation. Now, a lot of times it's because they can't get their spending under control, or things end up costing a lot more than they anticipated. So oftentimes I think it's obviously, easy to say, keep the expenses down, keep the revenue up. But I can tell you firsthand, as I'm sure you know, I mean, it's hard to do, and it takes a lot of planning.
Yeah, for franchisees and entrepreneurs in general, it kind of always drives me crazy when I hear people say, I'm taking a big risk going out on my own. And then you dig a little deeper and realize that they didn't change their lifestyle whatsoever. The sacrifices were stability, but they really didn't give their business the chance that they should have given it by cutting back their personal financial needs. And look, no one goes into entrepreneurship or business to make ends meet and just that. But Josh, you're not really sacrificing or risking, in my opinion, and investing in your business for that matter, if you don't manage your personal finances appropriately. And I think that's a big issue. I think a lot of times people look at their businesses to solve their personal financial problems, and I tend to believe it's the direct opposite. I believe that people should focus intently on their financial life in order to let them flourish with a stress-free sentiment on the other side of things.
So then do you help people ahead of them launching a business or buying a franchise or going into an entrepreneurial venture? Do you help them on the front end take a look at where they are with their finances, take sort of a big picture look at where they are, and then help them plan for what they're about to undertake?
Not on a one-on-one basis anymore, although I did that for several years. Now it's really kind of through our tools that we've created, whether it be books or guides or our podcasts or whatever. We do have those means of which to help people get laser focused on their finances prior to, frankly, ignoring them for a long time. Because as an entrepreneur, your attention turns to your business's finances, and it's nice to earn the right to ignore your finances by knowing what's going on. Too often people are split. Their attention is split between their personal finances and their business finances. And as you've seen a lot of time as an attorney, the commingling of ideas and funds and everything else clouds the entrepreneur's brain.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult thing. I mean, because you have people who are starting a business, and they have, I mean, if they're doing basic things right, they have a business account, they have a personal account, but they don't often think with that business brain to say, hey, I can't just go pull money from my business account. It's got to be related to the business. And when I pay myself, I need to do this through, certain means. Perhaps get a payroll company, which is sort of a novel idea, and set things up in a way to where you get out of the mindset of it's just all my money, and really thinking about how you're separating a business from the personal side of things. I find that a lot of people have a tough time with that, for sure.
I do. People treat their businesses like a hobby, and they expect business-like revenues. But if you're not resourceful, then what good do more resources do? I've never quite understood that people look to grow their businesses through revenue, when unless you're resourceful and you can make good, efficient use of that revenue, you're really barking up the wrong tree.
So aside from people making the mistake of spending more than they have, or letting their expenses outpace their revenue, I mean, what do you see in terms of the biggest or pretty substantial mistake that you see first-time business owners make with money?
Yeah, taking on too many investors when it's not necessary. I'm a huge believer in bootstrapping a business. I believe when you start handing out equity shares to people, especially early on when you're trying to go cheap and maybe you don't have money for a contractor to do this or that. So you think, well, hell, I'll just give them 10% or 1%. And I see that a lot, Josh. And that's not best practices. It doesn't make a lot of sense to divest yourself in order to pay for services that really aren't that significant in the long run to your business. Yeah, no,
that's a prime example of penny wise, dollar foolish in my mind. And you do see it because to somebody who is truly bootstrapping, the idea that they could give up a small percentage of something but not have to come out of pocket for it doesn't seem all that bad until all of a sudden they get more confidence and they realize that their business has legs or their idea has legs. And then they, like you said, then they kick themselves. Why did I give away that percentage? That happens quite frequently. I mean, from my financial perspective, when people are evaluating businesses, because I get this question a lot, as I'm sure you do as well. I mean, what are some key indicators that you would tell a business owner, first-time business owner, when researching a business opportunity?
You know, a mistake that I've seen recently, and it made me think back to the early years of my business, is that if your business just doesn't scale, you know, oftentimes you think, well, I'm going to be able to accomplish this, but the billing rate or the price you're charging, even at capacity, isn't enough. I heard a story recently of a brewery opening out on the West Coast. A friend of mine was telling me this, that the brewery itself was built in a way that it was impossible for it to be profitable, Josh. The economics of opening the brewery, the startup costs, couldn't be recovered based on the brewing capacity of the brewery. So here is someone jumping into like, hey, the brewery business is hot, I'm going to jump in there. Yet the elementary numbers of profitability didn't exist from day -10 of the business. It was impossible for them to make money.
See, that's I mean, and it's interesting. You know, looking at that from the outside in, you know, we say, gosh, that's crazy. And most people would say that's crazy. But, you know, for them going through that process, I mean, they obviously didn't have the right, the right mentors in place or people in place to help them through that process. And I see that a lot. I mean, do you see yourself a lot of times serving as sort of a mentor for people through the process? Because it sounds like you don't do the individual coaching as much anymore, but you're more teaching on the concepts.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, whether, again, be through radio books or whatever. For me, whether it's personal finances or even business acumen, there's a huge chasm that exists between knowing what to do and then taking action, Josh. And I think for a lot of people, we get so convoluted in our minds with all the, you know, the bric-a-brac of running a business that common sense stuff just falls by the wayside. So for me, you know, people have laughed and said, hey, are you a motivational speaker? You know, that's got a weird connotation to it. But the reality is my goal is to motivate people to take action the correct way, because the difference between knowing there's an idea and taking action, again, it's a pretty big difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you are doing a lot of speaking. What, didn't you speak 260 plus times last year around the country? Yeah. How does that happen? How does that work?
Oh, man, I'll tell you. It's weird. I mean, I always figured I would talk for a living, and maybe if people are listening to this now, they're thinking, man, those people should get their money back. But 262 times in 2014, it involved a tremendous amount of airline miles and several presentations a day in many circumstances. And even this year, March through April, I'll do well over 40 gigs from March 1st to April 30th here in 15.
So who are you speaking to? Is it college age students? Is it retirees? Is it business owners? I mean, who are you focusing on with these speeches, or is it all over the place? You know, just a consistent message?
Primarily people that have poor tastes in speakers. No, I do a lot of corporate gigs. A ton of Fortune 500 companies are our clients at Pete the Planner Financial Wellness. And I speak on behalf of a number of financial and retirement companies. I work alongside financial advisors, investment advisors now, and help their clients, whether they be individuals or generally corporations. I help the individuals within those corporations understand their personal finances better so that a true financial advisor can come in and serve them better. Here's another way to say it, Josh. Our lives are split into three parts financially: our past, our present, and our future. The financial world as it exists today only serves our future. There aren't a lot of resources, and there aren't a lot of ways to compensate advisors for helping people with their present and their pasts. My firm does that. We fix past, we fix present, and allow people to earn the right to focus on their future through retirement planning.
I love that explanation. That's great, Pete. Seriously, that's a great explanation of it, and it's almost the more important part of it. I mean, obviously, planning for the future is huge, but if you can have great plans, but if you don't have great practices, those plans will never be realized. So it sounds like what you deal with are helping people overcome some of their past bad practices, maybe get better understanding with their practices so that they can build a solid foundation and see through the plan that these financial advisors are putting in place for them.
Yeah, the best part about that, Josh, is that there's no socioeconomic bias to it. There's no educational bias to it. I'll speak to someone that has a doctorate that makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that has the exact negative behaviors as someone who is completely uneducated and makes $20,000 a year. So that's the unique aspect of what I do, is that I really have no concern over how much money you make or how much you have or how educated you are, because we're all still dealing with the same behavioral issues.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So let me just ask this, as I know we're going to wind down here in a couple of minutes, but my audience, there's a lot of people who are considering franchises, who are looking to get in the game, and it's a mix of people who have been in the corporate world, which certainly you understand, for many, many years, and maybe they've been downsized or they're recently retired, and they're trying to get back in the business game, and they're looking for different franchise opportunities. I mean, one of the things I often get asked, and I'll kick this over to you, is where should they start? I mean, outside of just, searching on the internet, but from a financial perspective, what should be some of the things that they should be sure that they're looking into before they just jump right back into the business game?
I like to think of our expenses as obligations. The idea that every bill you have over the course of a month is an obligation for you to earn more income. And so to take the pressure off yourself, to reduce those obligations, simply makes sense. Even from my own personal definition of success is no longer make as much money as you need to get whatever you want. That's what, to some degree, used to be my definition of success. Now it's to have as few obligations as possible. And that's not me being cheap. That's just me removing myself for the quest to always have and need more money. So I challenge entrepreneurs to cut their expenses as much as they can to accomplish that.
Well, Pete, it's been great interviewing you. Obviously, we could talk about many other things, as you have a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge. Before we hang up, tell us where we can not only find you, find out more about you, and anything else you want to leave the show with.
Sure. Just PeteThePlanner.com. On Twitter, I use Twitter as a medium to answer questions for anyone. And that's the kind of the fun part of my job, is that I'm getting 50 to 100 emails from people all over the country. We take those emails and either welcome those people onto our podcast, or we write them up on our blog or in the newspaper or on the radio. So we can get people answers to questions that generally freak people out, Josh.
Well, no, that's great. And maybe at a later date, I'll have you sort of back on to hone in on some more specific financial aspects that I know franchisees and business owners deal with. But thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.